What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me we have some more RPG horror stories. I'm recording this as soon as I woke up because I have an apology to make about my last video intro. Turns out the lore for the beet soup, as I looked it up, is apparently it originally came from Ukraine, and I guess maybe during the USSR communist days it was sort of adopted across the entire thing as our beet soup. I literally had no idea, and I apologize to any Ukrainians I've offended. To be honest, the soup was extremely popular. Honestly, I guess I just was never told like the actual lore about the soup, but look at that, we even have some soup lore in the video. I don't know if I have any Ukrainian viewers at all, but if I do, I just want to say thank you so much for your soup. I love it. It is so good. Thank you so much for making the soup. Mwah. Otherwise, yeah, let's just get to the next RPG horror story for today.
Left the game because GM uses AI chat for character interactions. This is going to be a short one, but what's everyone's thoughts on using clankers while playing TTRPGs? I don't mind if it's used as a way to learn, to let you off from a writer's block when developing stories, but I personally think it's lazy and just kills the authenticity of a game, especially if it's done while the session is alive. So playing Wrath of the WH40K on Discord, and I rolled an Adeptus Mechanicus character. As usual, he's robotic in his interactions and etc. Everything was going well until my character went to the factory where my character's faction, AdMech, is located. And that's when I noticed that whenever I speak in character, he would pause for 10 to 20 seconds and I would hear keyboard typing via his mic, then I would get a near perfect grammatically correct reply, which is suspicious given English isn't his first language. So am I. And it just doesn't match the way he speaks whenever the other players speak to his other NPCs, your average Joes in the Imperium of Man. It also doesn't make sense that a tech priest, someone who is above the hierarchy, is I'm revering my character who is a Skitari, aka cannon fodder, because he shares the same goal as his, when in reality tech priests in 40k are usually cold and calculative or almost devoid of humanity, so it just felt weird after the interaction. It was so out of place. Regardless, I love the campaign without a word of argument. I just hope future GMs would stop doing this. Whatever your thoughts about using AI in TTRPGs, whether you decide to use some of it or not at all, why would you ever want to take away the moment where you can roleplay with your players in character and leave it up to a clanker to do it? Why would you do that sort of thing? This is a moment for you to get in character, in moment, and reply as things are. You can write ahead, you know? You don't have to have ChatGPT give you real-time responses and just read whatever it's writing off. You can have real-time responses you pre-write for general questions players may ask. Let's say, for example, you know a player may eventually want to go visit and talk to this NPC. So you got to think to yourself, I wonder what kind of questions players may potentially ask that I can divulge useful information to them. Maybe some sort of lore, history, someone's post at their position, someone's rank, what they think about this other NPC and stuff, and all that jazz, giving a little bit of a genuine thought about how an NPC would respond to a player character. You know that thing they do also in like D&D modules and stuff when they introduce like a NPC, the motivations and how they would typically respond. I recently played the Sunless Citadel for my brother, which we succeeded and finished and stuff. It was pretty cool. He's actually joined my campaign and stuff. But anyway, we played through that, and in there they had specific like responses you can give, like a nice little script basically that you could read on out if players were to ask about one thing or the other. You can fib it, you can improv it, you can modify it however you want to, or you can just read it verbatim whenever players ask a specific type of question. And you could do that too. You could do a little bit of extra prep work to think about what a specific NPC would say as a response to a player character, if that specific information that needs to be tracked down via bulletin points and such. Like if you don't know the world's lore, or you don't think you're confident enough to be able to improv the response right then and there, pre-write it ahead of time and just read that out. Don't use AI as a crutch to just make your game better, because it's not going to make things better. If you're relying on AI to say whatever, it can give you a response of pee pee poo poo, I just peed in my pants, I'm a big old tiefling dummy dumb, and then you just read it out loud and then you made a fool out of everybody because everybody has to listen to this nonsense. Don't trust clankers to prop up your game. Actually give it a little bit of iota of thought instead of continuing through. I feel very in the middle, very down the middle when it comes to AI. I really don't don't mind if somebody decides to use it for maybe some sort of theory crafting or bouncing encounters and stuff, or trying to come up with, I don't know, general ideas, as long as you just don't let you become the brain. You still got a brain that you can use, and you're very, very smart. You shouldn't sell yourself so short. But Rome wasn't built in a day, and your world cannot be built using clankers and AI. It simply doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work. Think of AI as a placeholder, as it should be. It is a placeholder, so you can fill in the gaps later on yourself and make sure you can fine-tune everything for your game. But you shouldn't rely on everything to just be AI. You can't just go to Grok every single time and be like, Grok, give me an NPC response. It's just not gonna make your game better, because you're gonna rely off of this clanker to give you responses and stuff, and it will literally just make you worse when it comes to improv. Don't give up the opportunity to actually interact with your players and just be yourself. You don't have to give a specific type of response. Sometimes if you don't know how to act, like, you know, how to do like a formal calculative response that, let's say for example, a Mechanicus would say, just do your best. At the end of the day, I don't think your players are gonna care that you give a perfect response or perfect eloquent like reiteration of how a Mechanicus priest would respond. Just do your best, and I'm sure your players are gonna be fine with it. Let's get to the next story for today. A D&D campaign doomed to never happen. So I'm not sure how well the story fits in this sub, but I gotta get this frustration out somehow. The story takes place over a couple of weeks, and had multiple people contributing to a few people's first experience with D&D outside of Baldur's Gate 3 just never happening. The cast of the story is myself, the DM, person who suggested we start campaign, Dean, and a few other friends who are referred to as, oh my god, we have letters again. Not even letters, initials. I'm gonna go Kyle for K, is a name for IS because I don't know what else I'm supposed to do with is, and Robert because I'm not original. This all started about 2 weeks ago with a few of us in voice chat together. I talked with my friends about starting a D&D campaign for about 2 to 3 years now, and they seemed interested because at the time Baldur's Gate 3 was still fairly new when the talk started. During this whole time, it was with the idea of me being the DM instead of a player, because I talked about having ideas for stories and worlds. No one in my group seemed to know how it happened, but it wasn't chosen to run this potential game that Dean pitched, which didn't bother me too much at the time. By the way, if you haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 in a hot minute, there's so many great mods that just add so much flavor to the game. Artificer, Blood Hunter mod, oh my god. Mod that lets you go up to level 20 but also crank up the difficulty of the encounters and stuff. Oh my god, I love it. This has been so fun revisiting Baldur's Gate all over again with all the mods. Anyway, let's continue. We decided to use a 5e rule set from before 2024 for the game, since it's what everyone had access to. DM wanted everyone to start at level 1, and I figured we were all set to start rolling up characters and get the game going. In about a week or so, with how fast he was pushing things to get done, when everyone started to make out characters and pick classes is when the problem started to surface. Our party comp was originally going to end up being a half-drow rogue, me, an Aasimar monk, Dean, a Dhampir ranger, Kyle, a Dryder artificer, Robert, and a paladin who hadn't picked those species yet, is a name. DM was worried about our lack of a healer, which, fair enough, and wanted to convince Dean to be a cleric instead of a monk. Wait, hold on 1 second. You have an Aasimar, which already has some minor healing on his side. You have a ranger, which already can do healing, cure wounds and such. Good berry, mostly cure wounds. You have an artificer, which depends on what subclass that pick in specifically, could be an incredible healer. And you have a paladin that has a lay on hands. I mean, in fact, I think you guys cover the healing aspect completely fine. You have 3 classes that can grab healing spells and just use them sparingly together to get through the fights. Technically, you guys are set and good. And if your artificer later picks artillerist as a subclass, or alchemist, God forbid, then you already have some support options right there. Artillerist has the protection cannon that they can provide temporary HP to everybody every single turn as a bonus action, which is amazing. And alchemist gets actual alchemist features, including being able to make potions and such, or healing, you know, right then and there. And if your DM allows crafting and stuff, just have you guys find some healing potions you can craft in downtime. There you go. I think you guys got the healing covered though, but I mean, I understand where the DM is coming from. They wanted to be a cleric, but the thing is, like, clerics aren't just healers, right? Clerics are extremely ambidextrous. Clerics can fill any role, and I mean, I guess it's fine to have a cleric as a healer, but I feel like it kind of pigeonholes the one player to just be shafted to the healer role when you guys are doing just fine with like hybrid healers. It should be fine. You guys should be fine. When that didn't work, he gave Robert permission to play 2 2 characters and just have the second one be a celestial warlock as our healer. No, don't allow players to play 2 characters. No. This could be extremely exploitative, and it's gonna be, not only is it gonna be a lot for the player itself, but if the player decides to really abuse it, no, this is just not okay. It's just no. This, if everybody plays 1 character and that's about it. If you want to have a healer support, give him a DMPC, somebody that's just gonna be sitting in the backlands just healing. I don't know, something like that. Don't make players play 2 characters. That is insane. Our party was unconventional, but it could work well if we worked with each other during encounters. I asked DM what he thought of our party, and his immediately answer was, y'all need a fighter or a wizard or something. At this point, only a couple of us didn't have our character sheets filled out, and decided that session 0 was going to be used to help those people finish their characters, as well as getting their game started. That's cool, I thought, since only like 2 of us in this group have TTRPG experience, while everyone else only played Baldur's Gate 3. The planned day for session 0 arrived, and no one showed. DM didn't try to call the Discord server or anything. Maybe the DM slept through it. A question for anybody. Has anybody ever slept through those sessions that's supposed to be DMing? I have, and it's embarrassing and haunts me every single time, and I feel terrible over it. Ugh. But yeah, it happens. DM didn't tell anyone that he was postponing session 0 until like an hour after it was supposed to start. And only because I messaged the server asking where everyone was. Lack of communication until the last minute was frustrating, but I gave DM some slack because he had been working extra shifts prior to what he wanted to start the game. A day or so before the new date came, I was in another voice chat with the DM and Kyle, trying to get a clue on what the plan was. That same day, DM was talking about our party comp, saying that we would have a difficult time if a couple of us didn't change our classes. He criticized Kyle for playing a ranger, basically regurgitating the jokes and memes people in the community make about the class, and acted like it was gospel. Not only that, he addressed me and said, by the way, most of our encounters are going to be in the open areas, so you won't be able to do any sneaky stuff, referring to my rogue sneak attack. Even though you can do sneak attack in more situations than just hiding behind a rock or something before stabbing the target. I feel like this is a DM that only knows how D&D works through memes and like Reddit posts and stuff. And I don't think this is a DM that has ever read anything about the classes, because at level 1, guess what? Nobody is doing anything worthwhile. I mean, maybe if you had a barbarian and stuff, at least you had somebody that could rage and everything, but like at the end of the day, nobody's going to be doing anything other than rolling dice and hopefully hitting, maybe casting 2 spells per long rest. And even then, you're not going to be able to do much anyway, because everybody starts off at level 1. Nobody really gets any kind of fancy features until like, what, level 2 and 3? Mainly 3. That's when you pick a subclass and really become the big kahuna. Am I saying that correctly? Maybe I am. Trying to build an encounter for level 1 is not easy, and the best thing to do is just to throw something super simple and trivial at them and get them used to the game first. Treat it as tutorial levels basically, and maybe, I don't know, if you want to be that generous, if you're that worried about it, DM, give them healing potions from very beginning. Maybe give everybody 1 healing potion each so they can have a way to get each other up even if they're out of magic. But trying to force them to be some sort of a comp before they're even able to pick a specific subclass to go into unique niches and stuff is just kind of crazy to me. I don't understand why DM is so freaked out about it. This can work. It can definitely work. They don't have to have a wizard or fighter or a healer and stuff. They can do just fine with it. And as a DM, what you can also do is build encounters that make it possible for them to be able to do what they do. Or, hey, introduce that crafting system about making healing potions if they choose to be, I don't know, the alchemist subclass for the artificer. After this, and stuff he was saying about Dean's monk tipped both Kyle and myself off that the guy who's running our game has no idea about our party's mechanics and wants to force us to play classes that he personally knows in order to properly balance the game. When Kyle asked him why he's pushing so hard to play a specific way, DM said it was because he was forcing us to work together. He feels the need to force cooperation in a game that's literally built on cooperation. Okay, yeah, this DM literally has no idea what's going on. Like, Clueless. And I'm not trying to be mean to the DM, but I feel like they generally haven't read any of the classes, and they're trying to be like, well, if they're not playing the way that I would have played, they're clearly not going to work together, but hiding under the fact that I want you guys to cooperate together, so I want you guys to play specific classes that only I trust and stuff, even though their composition will work just fine. I'm pretty sure I had a party of a rogue, artificer, ranger, and a paladin together, and a monk as well. I mean, they got a good 5, like, they got a good 5er right there. They got a good comp. That comp can work well. It may take a little bit of extra effort on their part, but let the players decide how they want to take this on and how to handle this situation. That is the fun of D&D. You can be in a crazy, weird composition and still somehow make it work by utilizing and pulling your resources together and being very smart and careful about it. Give them the opportunity to succeed. Don't just expect them to fail from the get-go, DM. The conversation had both myself and Kyle scared crapless about what DM was going to do with fights in a campaign. And the idea of our DM making fights impossible just to spite us for not playing the classes we wanted seemed like a real possibility. DM was talking like he was refusing to rebalance the campaign so that everyone can play the characters they want, to the point that Kyle felt the need to roll up a fighter just to appease DM's rigid requirements. New date for Session 0 came, and no one showed up. No one showed up in VC, no one responded to messages in the server. It was radio silence. It was as if no one knew when Session 0 was supposed to happen. The day after our second session of no one showing up, I was talking to Dean and Carl and eventually got the subject of his character. Told him that your stats don't really go up in D&D like they do in stuff like Final Fantasy, and he would probably roll his stats instead of just sticking to what the app we're using gave him by default. All his stats were an 8. After we talked about that and our DM showed up in a call, Dean was annoyed about us taking the game too seriously and that it's not that deep because we urged him to roll his stats. Apparently the reason he wanted to play D&D with everyone is because he saw an animation of a moment from someone's campaign that was basically the party just doing goofy stuff to annoy their DM. Wanted to do the same thing with our group. He basically approached D&D like it was like a goofy co-op game where the objective is to make everyone laugh than to play the game. Did he watch a clip from Legends of Evantris? I'm probably mispronouncing the name, but the one with like Derek and Mikey. I get those shorts all the time, especially the animations of their campaign and stuff, and it's hilarious. It's piss yourself laughing. I don't think I've ever watched the full campaign. I don't even know if they like do combat and stuff. And D&D can be that, but it can also be something more than that. However, when your friend is telling you that you should probably not have all your stats be at an 8, you probably should listen. I highly recommend not starting off with everything at an 8. And it's not taken too seriously. It's kind of the whole point of having decent stats so you can actually do stuff. D&D comes with mechanics. CTRPGs come with mechanics. If you want to just goof around on Discord, you can just not play D&D and goof around on Discord trying to make each other laugh. On top of this revelation, DM apparently decided that now Session 0 won't happen unless everyone has their characters rolled up and sent to the server. When I asked him what happened to helping everyone who wasn't finished yet, he said, "I don't want to babysit everyone into making their characters. They need to just do it themselves." When he knows that those last few people have never played a TTRPG before. Wow, you know, what a useful DM. You're supposed to just know how to make a character in the first place. What, do you expect me as a DM to explain you how to do it in Session 0? You're just supposed to know these things. Coming from a DM that literally has no idea how Ranger, Artificer, or Paladin even plays and expects the party to fail immediately because they can't balance things for anything other than what the players decided to play. On top of that, he claimed that Robert never sent his character to the server, when he had sent both character sheets prior to when the original Session 0 date came up. DM had no idea what was sent to his own server. He was the one demanding everyone finish their characters on their own and send them to him. So we have a player who asked for a D&D campaign expecting to just be everyone shitposting for several hours a week, and a DM that has no communication, no patience for new players, and seemingly no knowledge of basic mechanics of the game outside of Fighter, Wizard, and Cleric. As it stands now, I doubt this campaign is ever gonna happen because two of the biggest reasons we're even planning a game in the first place are also the biggest roadblocks. All things considered, that may be for the best. If this campaign somehow actually starts despite all the factors surrounding it, I'll definitely post about it when it inevitably goes up in smoke. Until then, thank you for taking time to read this. May all your rolls be nat 20s, everyone. Update! So I just learned something that confirms to me that this campaign is never gonna happen. I'm in a call with Robert and Is a Name and decided to ask him about the game and see if they even wanted to still play. Robert didn't really give a straight answer, but Is a Name informed me that he had already told DM that he had changed his mind and didn't want to play well over a week or two ago. That means either DM thought that Is a Name was joking when he was just flat out not paying attention, when he was told that one of his players had lost interest and dropped out, Because when I last spoke to DM about the game, he talked like his name making his character was the thing holding up session 0. So the player basically said 2 weeks ago, hey DM, I'm just not interested in playing, I'm just gonna sit on out. And DM is like, well, this player has submitted their character sheet so we can't start it. Yeah, because they said they're not interested. You faffed around too much and somebody lost interest, dude. You made the thing so painful even before the game started. How in the right mind can you fail so badly as a DM where the player literally leaves before the game even started? It'd be one thing, let's say for example something else came out, but the player literally probably just lost interest because there's just too much faffing about and none of it made sense. And of course, yeah, if you're gonna make everybody wait for 2 weeks, yeah, the player's probably gonna want to leave because it doesn't sound that interesting to them. So now we have a player who wanted to play D&D because of a goofy video he saw, a player who dropped out, and DM that's so crap at keeping tabs on stuff with this game that he's not only had no idea that one of his players he thought he was waiting on had already sent his character, but also seemingly had no idea that another player in his group had dropped out before we all met up for a game. With all of this in mind, I think that at least half the people in this group didn't want to actually play the game and just like the idea of it. And DM is either just bullcrapping the few people that are left, or just completely incompetent as a DM, or even being involved with something outside of whatever video game he is trying to trophy hunt on that week. And that ends this story. Honestly, this group is just not gonna mesh well from the start. You need to have a DM that's actually committed to trying to make things go, and you need to have a DM that's gonna be like on top of things, right? You can't have a DM, I mean, I guess if you have a DM that has a secretary, a player that is actually gonna be keeping track of stuff and helping organize things, that could greatly help. But it takes a whole group to run a game. It can't just be just the DM, but even then, the DM was incompetent in the first place because they bounced around things that they only understood and only played without even trying to bounce it for the players, but instead we're trying to force everybody to make a cleric, a fighter, a wizard, a celestial warlock, or whatever, even forcing one player to play as 2 characters instead. Instead of teaching people how to make the characters, they just expect them just to know how to make the characters and already have them prepared already forever ago, even though there was no show in the slightest. If the DM can't show up to those sessions, they can't expect the players to show up to those sessions. Alternatively though, yes, the players should probably be stepping up a little bit more and asking questions and engaging more, but it's difficult to engage with a DM that isn't willing to engage in the first place. The DM has to be open and there to engage and chat about and actually be on top of things. But the DM is just sitting here saying, oh, nobody sent me the character sheets, even though players clearly submitted character sheets ahead of time on Discord. So you have a DM that literally has no idea what's going on. You have some players that want to play and some players that are losing interest. They like the idea of playing D&D, but this first time experience has just really turned them off. And one player basically said, yeah, I don't think I want to play, and he's still expected to join in anyway by the DM. This game was doomed from the start. Honestly, I think you should probably talk, if you still want to play D&D with this group, you should talk to your players and say, listen, I will DM, but who is genuinely interested? Find the people that are interested, remove the people that are not interested, still stay friends with them, just don't have them be part of the game. Find other players to join in, or just play with those players that are interested and just go from there. But I think this is one of those situations, OP, where you need to step up as the DM and show how it needs to be done. I understand you want to play as a player, but clearly your friend, the DM, is incompetent. Clearly they just don't know what the hell's going on. They don't know what to do. So you need to step up in the DM seat and show them how it's done. I wish you good luck and hope you get to join at least some kind of a game. Maybe show your buddies what D&D is actually like for the very first time. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.